Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user Throwaway London Mom. I, female 44, hired an investigator and have discovered my husband's, male 47, affair and sex addiction. What on earth do I do next? My husband, male 47, and I, female 44, have been married for just over a decade and it has been, for the most part, a loving marriage, centered around our two beautiful children. Of course, I've had grievances. He travels a lot for work, is constantly glued to his phone, and sometimes would abruptly pop out for errands that he has always been incredibly vague about. Initially, these didn't concern me too much. He has a very demanding job that has allowed us to have a lifestyle I never thought possible. His job meant that I could leave work to be with the children, take us on wonderful holidays, send the children to a great school. I always felt that complaining to him about his work, phone, computer, and random emergencies would be so selfish considering everything he does for us. However, 2 weeks ago, I started getting really suspicious after I had found a condom in the inside pocket of his blazer. There was no reason for him to have it there as we only ever have sex at home and, frankly, it isn't something we do as often as we used to. This prompted me to do something I never thought I would do, but I found an opportunity to get into his phone when he wasn't looking. I'm not sure what I was looking for. I first looked at his photos but couldn't find anything. Then I thought I would check his messaging apps. WhatsApp, Telegram, both were password locked, which I found very odd. Only iMessage could be accessed, but there was barely anything there. At this point, I had a sinking feeling something was up. Last year, a friend was in a similar situation and used a digital investigator to learn more about her absent and secretive fiancé. The investigator found out that this man had been living a complete double life with a long-term girlfriend in Edinburgh, and unbelievably, a whole business he had set up and was earning money from. She had no idea about the business or all the money he was earning from it, and no doubt spending on his girlfriend. I asked for the investigator's details and requested that they pull together anything and everything they could find about my husband. The investigator spent about a week digging online and came back to me with a report that changed my life forever. I got a call from the investigator warning me that my husband's report would be a very difficult read. He said that I should open it in private at a time when I would be able to process it fully. Since I received it, I have barely been able to eat, sleep, properly take care of the kids, or speak to him. And yet, he is so absent-minded, he doesn't even realize something is wrong. It turns out that my husband of over 10 years has been 1. Having an affair with a woman 15 years his junior. 2. Financing this woman's lifestyle and her failed business venture. 3. Attending sex parties with her, where they have sex with other partners. 4. Posting in a revolting online sex forum, including pictures of his genitals and details his addiction to smut and escorts to his creepy online friends. And 5. Based on his posts online, he's clearly been spending thousands on escorts as far back as 7 years ago. I have no idea where to go from here. I don't know what to do. I have no idea how to confront him about this, or if I should see a lawyer first. I know the obvious decision is to simply divorce, but our children are 9 and 7. I have loved him since we first met 14 years ago, and I know that I have a place in his heart too, in spite of these actions. If he is truly an addict, then maybe there is a way to get through this if he agrees to treatment. I am a complete mess and I can't talk about this to anyone in person yet. Any advice you have for me would be really appreciated. OP, I'm so sorry you're going through this, but you are not powerless. Your husband didn't just cheat. He lied, manipulated, and built a double life at your expense. There is no coming back from this. First, I would consult a lawyer immediately to understand my rights and secure my financial future before he realizes what's coming. He's been funneling money into another woman's life. You should refuse to let him jeopardize yours. Second, I would get support, legal, emotional, and practical. A therapist, a trusted friend, or someone who can help me stay clear-headed. And finally, I would take action, not ask for explanations. He made his choices. You should make yours. No begging, no arguing. Prepare your exit on your own terms. After what he did to you, after what he's been doing to you, this marriage is over, but your life isn't. Don't let his betrayal define yours. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. And now let's move on with the community comments. Snoo Recipes 9891 says, if you stay, you are showing your kids that this is how adult relationships work. Betrayal, disrespect, and lack of love is what they will seek in their adult relationships. If you leave, you show them that being treated this way is unacceptable and that betrayal has consequences, and choosing your self-respect is always a priority. Buddy Inevitable 638 says, 1. Talk to a lawyer before you do anything. 2. No, this is not something that will be fixed or cured via therapy. Therapy only works if the person does the work. It isn't a magical cure that resolves giant issues just because you schedule an appointment and show up. The reality is you have been married to someone who was capable and willing to lie to your face systematically. Therapy doesn't just fix that. In fact, if he has a personality disorder, which I suspect based on your post about his behavior, he likely will never change. 3. Do more research into pathological love relationships. Briefly ask yourself these questions. Does he have difficulties with empathy, egotism, exploitiveness, aggrandized sense of self, distorted perceptions of self and others, self-serving, boundary violations, blame shifting, low remorse, low accountability, motivated by power, control, or personal gain? Just a brief place to start exploring who you are actually married to. And 4. Talk to a lawyer and the therapist before doing anything. Someone who specializes in pathological love relationships, ideally. Lyra Leon says, therapy will not work because he clearly is reveling in his addiction and secretive lifestyle, and he shows little remorse for it. Escorts, sex parties, and financing a mistress is way too far. That man does not love you. You're a live-in caretaker for his children and home that he can occasionally have sex with too. Lawyer up, protect your own finances and lifestyle and your children's future. And Flumpspoon says, when someone cheats on their partner, the important thing to bear in mind as well as their actions is their motivation. In this case, your partner appears to set no value on fidelity and view women and sex as something disposable to be purchased at whim. This is not something that can be fixed with therapy. You deserve someone you can trust. Well, I think the community came with good advice for OP. Basically, this is it. You need to protect yourself and your kids and see how you can get out as quickly as possible. Of course, lawyer up. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Firstly, I'd just like to thank almost every single one of you who has commented to leave me advice or message me privately. I took a lot of advice on board, especially legally speaking, and this has proven to be of great benefit. I apologize for my long absence and lack of replies. I hope the update below can explain it. I chose to wait until after New Year's as I did not want to rob the children of one last Christmas and New Year's holiday as a family. In the meantime, I researched solicitors and sought recommendations from trusted friends. Rather humiliatingly, I did, after much urging on this website, also schedule and go through with an STI test. It was horrifically embarrassing, but I am relieved to say that it came back negative. I don't know how I could have coped if he had gotten me sick because of his revolting actions. He made my job incredibly easy by flying out for a work trip. Not that anything he says could ever be trusted. On the 2nd of January, and I immediately got the ball rolling. Met with the solicitor, packed up all of his belongings into 6 suitcases, had the locks changed, and spoke to a child psychologist to work out the best way to explain things to the kids, who are far too young to understand the full picture, of course. Fast forward to a week later, and upon his return, I, having made sure the children were picked up by my mother after school, greeted him to a hallway full of suitcases and divorce papers. I had printed out the report in full and started walking him through it before he started breaking down in tears and excuses. It was a compulsion. He was unbelievably stressed, and that if I left him, he would have no choice but to marry the other woman, whereas he would end it immediately if I were to take him back. This last part was truly the nail in the coffin. I don't think he even realized just how manipulative a comment that was to make. After hours of back and forth and of his groveling, he gave up. He was left at the bottom of the stairs in the entrance to our home with his suitcases, waiting for a cab to take him to God knows where. There is still a lengthy legal process ahead, and unfortunately, it turns out that him being unfaithful, etc. doesn't really impact how assets might be divided following the legal battle. However, I'm confident that my solicitor will get the outcome I need to keep the house and live independently. In terms of the children, I would rather not discuss them so as to keep it private, but it has been an incredibly difficult adjustment and sometimes I do feel guilty. As for myself, I am still completely heartbroken and frankly, I don't ever hope to find love again. I just don't think I can quite trust like that again. Finally, I'd just like to add that while most comments have been lovely and supportive, I did get a number of comments and private messages blaming me for my soon-to-be ex-husband's behavior, claiming I did not give him sufficient sexual attention and that I shouldn't complain because he provided me with a certain lifestyle. Firstly, these comments are awful and betray a repulsive worldview with regards to sex, intimacy, and marriage. Secondly, our ailing sex life was not my doing and was, at times, a criticism I myself had of our relationship, not the other way around. Thirdly, just because someone provides you with a lifestyle doesn't entitle them to treat you as if you were nothing, with no respect and no honesty. I would have hoped all would be aware of that. OP, don't mind the haters. You took your power back, chose dignity over deception, and proved that your worth is not up for negotiation. You are walking away with your head held high. Don't forget that. Thanks for sharing, OP, and take care. Now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Dear Hovercraft 3749. Am I the a-hole for telling my father and stepmother that I'll exchange the gift they bought for my daughter? My daughter is turning 5 later this month. We have a trip coming up, so we decided to have her birthday party last Saturday instead. When we got home after the party, we helped our daughter open her gifts. The only ones she didn't open were the ones we realized were jewelry or clothing. She doesn't care about those, only the toys, which me and my husband opened without her. Those were gifted mostly by family members. The jewelry department mainly consisted of necklaces and bracelets. The sole exception was a pair of earrings gifted by my father and his wife. My daughter's ears aren't pierced. We didn't pierce them when she was born, nor do we intend to do so anytime soon. We want to let her decide whether she wants to, and she's never expressed any interest. So, me and my husband already knew we'd be exchanging the earrings. Usually, we don't tell people we're exchanging a gift they bought for us. This time is different. My stepmother has been pestering me about piercing my daughter's ears since she was born. There's always a different reason why. First, it was because people wouldn't know she was a girl if we didn't. Then it turned into she'll get jealous of her friends, and so on. But she always makes the point that girls need to have their ears pierced. She brings it up almost every time we see her. My father usually doesn't comment on it, but has backed her up a few times. Also, my stepmother's never complained about my older son's appearance, so I know this is rooted in sexism, or it could be cultural. When my father called us the next day to ask what we thought of the earrings, I told him they looked nice. My stepmother joined in and asked, "So, you're getting her ears pierced?" I tried to dodge the question, but she later asked it again. So I told him no. I looked at the store's website and found a matching necklace, which we'll exchange the earrings for. There's a price difference, but I'll cover it. Well, they weren't happy. Apparently, my stepmother started crying. My father told me off for thinking about exchanging a thoughtful gift he bought for his granddaughter and said it was wrong of me to dismiss my stepmother's opinion like that. In return, I told him I couldn't take her insistence anymore and she needed to stop obsessing over my daughter's ears. It escalated into a fight. My husband, while 100% on my side otherwise, thinks I didn't need to tell them. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, I don't think you're the a-hole, but I also think you don't need to return them or exchange them. Keeping them doesn't mean that you're going to pierce her ears right away or anything like that. In my case, I come from a country where I can confidently say most girls do get their ears pierced when they're born. It's a cultural thing. Now, in my family, there is a tradition that grandparents gift a newborn granddaughter earrings. And my first child was a girl. But just like you, my wife and I talked about it and we decided against piercing her ears. However, my mom still gave us earrings and we thanked her for them. They're very nice and said we would keep them in a safe place until my daughter had her ears pierced and then she could wear them if she wanted. Now, as opposed to your stepmom, my mom said, cool, and she's never brought it up again. And that's why I don't think you're the a-hole, because your stepmother has been annoying about this whole thing, so shutting her down is the right thing to do. But I still think you could keep them for your daughter in the future. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Tangerine Bouquet says, not the a-hole. Honestly, I'd never let them babysit your daughter unsupervised because of that level of insistence. Your stepmother pushed. This is a more than reasonable boundary to hold. No, you will not be piercing your daughter's ears. It wasn't a gift, it was an attempted manipulation. Even if it were his side of the family, your husband would be out of line here. This is an example of needing to tell them that the gift was inappropriate because they knew full well it was. Kuroko Mainu says, not the a-hole. If you hadn't returned the earrings, they would have been forever used as the pretext for bringing up your daughter getting her ears pierced so she can wear them. They bought them for that purpose. You weren't being rude, you were rejecting rudeness. They jammed their foot in your closing door like a pushy salesman who won't accept no for an answer. You are removing the foot so the door can be closed. Bulbasaur Ranch says, not the a-hole. It's ridiculous they tried to manipulate their bizarre desire to pierce your daughter's ears by gifting you this. They knew what they were doing and don't like being called out on it. It's not their kid, so they don't get to decide anything about parenting it. Get your stepmother a gift she can't use and see how she likes it. Tell her you think she needs to take up scuba diving and get her a dive mask. All gifts going forward are things she can't use, and when she questions it, you can tell her that it's a thoughtful gift and you've decided she needs to get into scuba diving. And Supple Honey says, I would literally never leave them alone with her. They will pierce her ears in a heartbeat. And Opie responds, they're never alone with her. My father still works and doesn't have enough time to babysit. My stepmother has never been alone with a child for more than 2 hours. Her words, not mine. So we wouldn't ask her to stay with our kids either. Opie's edit. The party took place at a kids' party venue, not at our home. We're not from the US and it's not common to open gifts in front of guests around here. Well, the community agrees that Opie is not the a-hole. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. I want to thank everyone who commented on my previous post. A few days after I wrote, I called my father. I told him that both him and his wife were out of line and that any further attempts to overrule my and my husband's parenting will have consequences. We're both more than willing to limit their contact with our children if they don't stay in their lane. We did end up fighting about it, but I put my foot down. Eventually, my father agreed. A few days later, he sent me an apology via text and offered to cover the price difference between the earrings and the necklace. I declined. I also discussed the situation with my husband. We both agreed to check whatever gifts our kids get from my father and his wife in the future. Better safe than sorry. My husband and I exchanged the earrings for the matching necklace during the weekend. Our girl loved it. We filmed her wearing it and thanking my father and his wife and sent them the video. My father sent us an audio, "You're welcome, honey, I love you," etc. in response. My stepmother didn't reply, nor do I expect her to. Also, you guys are absolutely right. There's no way in hell either of them are ever babysitting my kids. But yeah, I think this is over. Thank you for reassuring me that I was right to hold my ground. Well, it'll be good for you for setting hard boundaries, and your girl loves the necklace. So here's wishing you the best in the future, and thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.